All right, tonight, in Donald Trump's war on Harvard, Harvard is hitting back using the power of the law. The result, a federal judge has temporarily paused the Trump administration's ban on international students today.
Hey guys, welcome to My Brother's Ballot. I'm your boy Poe Theory, so let's get into it. So I was watching NewsNight, and of course we all know that Trump has been in a crazy battle with Harvard. They are one of the few institutions that are not bending the knee to him, probably because they have endowments of well over $20 billion, if not more. So let's get into this panel discussion.
It's very obvious to everybody involved that they are no longer going to be able to enroll any foreign students because the Trump administration, through ICE and Homeland Security, is now saying that they're not going to allow Harvard to, I'm going to use old-fashioned words, to sponsor any foreign students, immigration visas or student visas.
Right.
So these students now, as a result of what Trump did, and it's temporarily restrained, and if they don't restore Harvard back to the position it was the day before, the students are going to have to matriculate at other American universities to be able to stay in the country.
And that's the thing. That's how you know it's retaliatory, and the judge was 100% correct in issuing that judgment. He's basically saying only Harvard can't accept international students. So the students that currently are enrolled at Harvard that are international students, if Trump actions were able to go into effect, those students would not be able to go back to Harvard, but they would be able to go back to other schools in America, but just not Harvard. It's clearly retaliatory.
Or eventually they're just going to have to leave. It's a really serious situation because for a US president to be retaliating against a university in this method by looking for any sort of avenue to crack down on Harvard for not doing what the administration wants is really awful. And
let's not forget, the reason that this country is so great, America is not only great because of its citizens, but it's great because of the people that come here. Even though Trump likes to say we don't get the best and the brightest, we actually do get a lot of great foreign people that come here and actually bring their intelligence and bring their great ideas, their diversity. That is what makes this country great. If we were to close off our borders as what he wants to do, we would quickly see how downhill this country would become, and also how we would no longer be a leader on the world stage, which we are losing already.
I do wonder, what does handicapping the world's sort of wealthiest university and one of the world's most well-known universities who, I mean, people come to America to go to Harvard, the best and brightest around the world. What does that do for America's competitiveness to sort of say, we don't want these students anymore?
Well, as I said last night, talking about this topic,
I'll tell you what it does. It crushes our innovation. It crushes our footing on the world stage. It crushes people's want and need to come to America where we have freedom of speech. This man is literally breaking the facade of what America is. He's showing everyone what America truly is, or at least what America has been for people like me.
Harvard made its bed in how they handled the rise of anti-Semitism on their campus. But I do want to talk briefly about what happened today with this judge, because imagine.
First of all, let's be very clear. Donald Trump is not doing this because of the rise of anti-Semitism on Harvard's campus. Now, don't get me wrong. When I put the air quotes up, I want to be very clear. I do believe anti-Semitism is real, but I do not believe in the conflation of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. That's one. Two, he is only upset because Harvard is not bending the knee to him. This man does not care about anti-Semitism. And before y'all get in my comments and say, well, his son-in-law is Jewish. Again, last time I checked, there were good people on both sides in Charlottesville when they were yelling, Jews will not replace us.
A judicial system that moved this swiftly for regular Americans, or just Americans, quite frankly. 4 hours, not even 4 hours, from when Harvard filed that lawsuit to when the judge issued the restraining order, and then set 2 hearings for next week.
Hold on. See, this is the thing that always irritates me about conservatives. This has always been the justice system. You got to pay to play. And if you can't pay to play, you better hope that you got the skin to fit in. And for people like me, the justice system has always moved slow. There's no such thing as a speedy and fair trial when you're a regular person. Now that the justice system is not working in the conservatives' favor and actually moving quickly and justly for Harvard, they don't like it. But this is what the justice system is.
There are defendants and plaintiffs in this country that wait literal years. Harvard has to wait about 5 days.
Okay, so what are you going to do about it now? Once this case is gone, are you going to create any legislation to make sure that people are getting speedy and fair trials outside of this? Not because it's just in opposition to what you believe and going against your dad, Donald Trump?
When I left that plant when it shut down, I went to work at the International, and they realized I didn't have a formal education. And I should have some basic understanding of things like the law and social movements. So they sent me to Harvard to an executive program. And I remember there encountering for the first time in my life, hayseed plowboy, foreign students. I'd never met a foreign student. I'd never stepped foot on foreign land. And something that stood with me when I was reading this today is that how much they love this country and how much they would tell me stories of what it's like in their country, where they can't speak up, where they have no freedoms, and how great it was that they were having this opportunity. It was.
Thank you for saying that. I have to keep saying this, even though this isn't a part of the whole Harvard saga, but immigrants, undocumented immigrants, they commit far less crime than actual American citizens. And just from an anecdotal standpoint, the amount of pride that immigrants have once they reach here, sometimes I feel like they are more appreciative to be in America than its own citizens. And actually, I believe that's true because we take what we have in America for granted. Because again, these people are coming from places where you can't speak out against the government. What I'm doing right now, in certain countries, I'd be jailed. And so when you make it a point to close off our borders and not allow people here that really need to be here, that would love to be here, that will only make this country better, it is only to America's detriment.
Was many years ago. I didn't see any anti-Semitism. I'm not saying that that's not somewhere right now, but these people loved America more than a lot of my friends back home because we took it for granted. I'll put it on myself because I didn't understand all the freedoms that I had until they, a foreign student, told me how lucky I was.
You know what? Can I say something though? And I really do agree with you. I mean, that was swift justice, you know, to have this happen so quickly. Harvard, it's not the same place anymore when you were there. I mean, Harvard's not completely without fault here. They've admitted they've made mistakes, and I think that's an understatement. To allow the anti-Semitism that proliferated on that campus, where one of the students, he just settled a lawsuit with them, Shabbos Kastenbaum. I met him and I heard his story. He had to attend classes with bodyguards at Harvard. He was threatened. He was prevented from going to class. He is not the only student. And
the case that she is speaking about, I did a little bit of research on it. I also saw this video from Glenn Greenwald. That guy's not exactly a full victim because when she's saying that he had to have bodyguards and things of that nature, he was intentionally walking through the encampments on campus and saying that this is the only way I can get to my class. And that's not exactly true. He could have walked around. I will never be a person and say, hey, there was no anti-Semitism in those protests. I'm sure there were, but a lot of people like to inflate anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism. The vast amount of protests were against Israel's actions, not against Jewish people. It was against the Israeli state. And even then, there were so many Jewish students that were a part of those protests.
For the government, federal government to step in and monitor Harvard or admonish Harvard, I'm okay with that. That should be done. If black students were prevented from going to class,
that bothers me. I don't like when supporters of Israel bring up the black struggle and try to make it analogous. It is not analogous because it's so easy to understand because of the history of this country. If they make that analogy, people will be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But it's not the same thing.
Students were being threatened on campus and shunned.
Black people are threatened everywhere in this country. We are at assault everywhere in this country, from our own country.
and spit on and all these things that are going on, the federal government would step in. It's just the manner and method by which the Trump administration steps into things, which we see in everything they do. There may be good intentions in the beginning, but it always spirals into this ridiculous overplay of power.
And to be honest, though, that is a reality also for Black students who are on a lot of campuses. I went to a predominantly white institution. I went to Michigan State. I told this story last night. The first time I was ever called an N-word was at Michigan State. And the Ku Klux Klan used to come there and recruit. I didn't see the federal government anywhere. All right. And so.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, I keep saying this. Anytime that you see a pro-Zionist on TV, they always want to compare the Black struggle to the Jewish struggle, where it is completely different. Let me take that back. It's not even the Jewish struggle, I would say, because again, these protesters are not protesting Jews. They are protesting the state of Israel. They are protesting the investment that Harvard gives to Israel. They want their colleges and universities to divest from Israel, which is really interesting because I don't know if you guys know it, but it's actually illegal in certain parts of this country to promote the divestment of Israel. It is literally illegal in America to protest Israel in certain parts of this country. A foreign country. I can say whatever about my government, but not about Israel if I want certain federal contracts. You can't say anything about Israel or you won't be allowed to admit international students at Harvard. No one thinks that's crazy.
So this is not to, I don't want to play the oppression Olympics, but what I am saying is that I understand that Harvard did not do its best or as much as they could have to stand up for the Jewish students on campus facing this reality. But the overstep here feels vengeful. It doesn't feel like, it feels like they're using anti-Semitism as a cover to punish Harvard for God knows what. I don't know.
Oh, they're definitely using it as a cover. This administration does not care about Jews. Let's be very clear. This whole new mixing of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism is only to hurt the left. They don't truly care about the Jewish community. Let's be very clear. Yes, there are anti-Semites, there are racists everywhere, no matter what their party affiliation is. But let's be very clear. If you want to talk strictly numbers, I guarantee there are more anti-Semites on the right than there are on the left. Let's be very clear about that.
Their existence. I don't know if Barron Trump just didn't get in. I don't know what it is. Like why? And because of that, it's unfortunately going.
I caught that. She doesn't know if Barron Trump got in. He probably didn't. That's why Trump's really mad.
Going to set a bad precedent for other places. Like, what if they don't like something that's happening at other institutions?
Yeah, but
then
it
this
sort of
gives them.
diminishes the anti-Semitism because it was so extreme. You're having this one thing about having protesters on campus who engage in free speech and support, if they want to support a terrorist organization, that's part of the First Amendment free speech.
Again, they are not supporting a terrorist organization. Those protesters were not supporting a terrorist organization. They were protesting and advocating for the divestment of Israel, as Israel is literally quite literally right now starving women and children. They've even pushed, and if I'm not mistaken, it's been put into law that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, and that's not true. That is not true.
When you actually take that to an extra step, this is going on now. I mean, I know you weren't in college yesterday, and you do look very young, and I know that. But right now, to have students be in fear for their lives, to not be able to enter a building on campus that they're paying tuition to go to, it's just way too out of control what's going on with these students. Nobody should feel that way on campus. And for Harvard to be this crown gem of the United States in terms of education and faculty, not to educate their students, not to implement programs, not to punish any students for doing this to other students. You want to protest? Go ahead and protest.
Have we not been watching the news? Like, I'm confused. I'm so confused. To not be punished. The president of Harvard was literally removed because they felt that she didn't properly protect the Jewish students. There have been plenty of videos of outside agitators spitting and fighting the protesters. wanting to go into the encampments and causing issues. Yes, certain students were not allowed to go into the encampment because they recognized that they would be agitators, and the media, who is overwhelmingly pro-Israel, would capture those scenes and automatically put it on the protesters and say that the protesters were aggressive when it actually was the anti-protesters coming in there. I can't, again, what is it? PEP, Progressive Accept Palestine. This is what this woman is.
But do not block your fellow students from entering their classrooms. Do not push them around.
So let me just jump in.
This irritates me. Protesting is not supposed to be quiet, cute, and calm. Protesting is supposed to disrupt. If it weren't for the protests of the 50s and the 60s, boycotting the buses, stopping traffic, doing sit-ins, making people uncomfortable, nothing would change. And I'm sorry, you not being able to go to class pales in comparison to over 50,000 Palestinians being slaughtered.
Here just really quickly, because I guess the big question is, why are you punishing all international students when this student body is made up of a lot of American students as well who took part in those protests? And I do want to add one more thing. The United States sold more educational services to the rest of the world than they sold natural gas. This is a huge moneymaker for the United States. You look at this and how much money they have the United States has sort of exported, or if you will, imported, to have students come and take part in our educational system.
We have a very petty president. I mean, look what he's doing with the tariffs. And now they're finally admitting, well, yeah, households will have to pay a little bit more. We've been saying it, but you've been lying to the American people. There have been plenty of people in my comments on my other videos regarding the tariffs saying, you're lying, the other countries are going to pay for it, but now your administration is saying that you will be paying for it. So what do you say now?
And as Chuck said, it actually is to sell the American dream abroad as well. So Malik, how do you square this going after Harvard?
So there are valid concerns with how Harvard has handled the anti-Semitism issue. I think Claudine Gay probably is the biggest example of that in her hearing. So there is a valid role for the federal government. One of the things that attracted me to being embracing conservatism and becoming a Republican is this idea of small government. For me, what the Donald Trump administration has been doing when it comes to Harvard, this is aside from the anti-Semitism issue.
I find that so interesting because, again, as long as I've been alive, I'm 35. I've never really ever seen the Republicans want small government, but there's nothing but overreach. If you're not doing things that the Republicans want you to do, they will definitely use the power of the government. They want to make it seem like the Democrats or the left want big government overreach. No, the left just wants a big safety net so people don't have to go into debt because they have cancer. We don't want people homeless because they lost their job. We don't want your health insurance tied to your job. That is the type of government that the left wants. The Republicans want to basically moderate society through the force of the government.
Trying to control the curriculum, trying to control the hiring, and at this point, controlling your enrollment. For me, that is very big government. That is not the small government conservatism that I.
Okay, Malik, you're right. I agree with you, Malik. I agree with you. Finally. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I am your boy, Poe Theory. Peace.